Those are, without a doubt, the tightest joggers of all time. I think those are painted on.
We're going to be doing 3 sets here, very likely, 15 to 20 reps, nice and light. Starting out, Conan is contest prep. We got to start out nice and light to get some heat going through the joints, and then we'll go on to heavier stuff later. Not ideal for most of you folks training, but in contest prep, weird stuff has to happen. We're going to be giving you a ton, hopefully, of really good cues for this exercise. Dumbbell skull crushers, let's get it done.
One of the things that's going to occur with contest prep is going to be you're dieting so aggressively, you're so lean, the fatigue is so high that your injury risk is a bit higher. On top of that, body fat is just helpful in terms of hormones and things like that, mixed with special sports supplements, as we'll call them. There is a risk of joint injury the closer and closer you get to contest prep. So that's why you'll see a lot of contest prep guys doing a little bit of higher rep stuff, especially on something where, like skull crushers, where certain people get elbow pain. So 12 to 15 reps makes a ton of sense here.
Get done. And up, and one more. Slow, keep them in, and up. Very good, rack.
Yeah, we're just going to be honest here, kind of going through this. You're very unlikely to find problematic form in an RP video. That's kind of their whole thing. So I don't think I'll have much form critique on this one. So surprise, good form.
You said you do mostly cables. I assume that means you do a lot of press downs and shit. So you're probably not used to this horizontal type of tricep exercise. It really just hits an entirely different head of the tricep.
I do just
Or
like
at least
overhead
emphasizes it.
cable and
Yeah,
all
it's a
cable,
little
yeah.
different.
The tricep crosses the elbow and the shoulder joint. So you'll get a little bit of different head activation, whether you're doing those like a skull crusher or an overhead tricep extension. Both those will get you a little bit different activation in the tricep, and that's what makes them good to use in tandem. And then they mentioned specifically that you want to be getting a good stretch. That's because we know that the most stretched portion of a lift is likely to cause a little bit more growth. We know that it's called stretch mediated hypertrophy, that a majority of the benefit, or at least some degree of the benefit from full range of motion training, is because of that most stretched position.
Up, 11, elbows in. Yes, it's gonna be hard. Up, 12, down, slow, control, up. Couple more.
A lot of people will ask, where should your elbows be on a skull crusher? There's a lot of right answers. And if you kind of play around with it, you'll find, oh, if I bring them in, now my elbow hurts. If you bring them out, then your elbow doesn't hurt and you feel it straight through the tricep. It's a simple stimulus to fatigue ratio thing. So if you move your elbows out, you feel your triceps just getting smashed and your elbows feel great. That's the right answer for you.
I'm getting on.
Those are, without a doubt, the tightest joggers of all time. I think those are painted on.
It's easy for the dumbbell skull crusher to start flaring out a ton, cutting your range of motion. It's imperative that you try to bring your elbows close together, especially on the way down. If you come out, you're still using triceps a lot, but it's also more pecs. You want to make it more tricep specific by keeping it close and locked. And you really want to get into this rhythmic pattern where your elbows are outside of the equation. They're locked right in place, and then only movement occurs about the joint that it's supposed to be. Slow, controlled on the way down. Good pause here for Conan, and a nice, powerful extension. No wiggling, no weaving, just the right stuff.
It's kind of the same idea with a close grip bench press. If you keep those elbows nice and tucked, you're going to get more triceps out of it. Again, all that with the caveat that if your elbows in certain positions hurt, that's probably not the right answer for you, and kind of play around with it.
So I would say it's probably smart to include some sort of vertical tricep exercise, like whether that's a push down or an overhead variation, and then also some form of a skull crusher. So if you start implementing that, you'll probably see that your triceps get a lot thicker. Yeah. Like you said, you're feeling it in parts you haven't
sometimes
felt
like
it,
on the cable, like skull crusher standing.
Yeah, that's decent.
But this feels
Yeah,
better.
it's probably a good variation, like something like a Super Machine skull or something like this.
100%.
Really good. Yeah.
They talk about being a good variation. There's a lot of right answers, and there's not really any one best exercise for anyone. It's going to look different from time to time. So you might find that dumbbell skull crushers blow your triceps up for like 6 months, and then all of a sudden pumps, disruption, soreness start to go down, and then maybe let's say joint pain starts to go up, that would be a time we pull those from your program, kind of set those on the bench because the stimulus is dropped and the fatigue is really high, and then bring those in, bring another tricep exercise in to kind of make sure that you're keeping stimulus high and fatigue low, kind of getting the best of all the worlds. There's this concept called directed adaptation. Essentially, whenever you're doing an exercise and getting a hypertrophic stimulus, your body is going to start essentially getting used to it, and it's going to be less likely to want to adapt. So at some point, stimulus is going to be so low, even if fatigue doesn't rise, that that exercise is going to need to be kind of rotated out for you.
So I don't think he's done any sort of rest pause myoreps recently, but he is used to cables oftentimes for his triceps, which he just told us. And I don't want this entire workout, because he is 3 weeks out from a show, I don't want the whole thing to be some sort of novel stimulus and just really interfere with his training. Again, 3 weeks out, he's been doing a lot of cable shit. So instead of just making everything different, we're gonna go ahead and do some myorep press downs with the press down that he's normally been doing throughout his last training block. And then just that, the secondary, what we're showing you is his alternating from a horizontal to a vertical tricep.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. Just remember, any instance of adding novelty to your program is likely to increase damage, which is fine to a degree, soreness and stimulus. So when he's 3 weeks out, that is not the time to really rock the boat. So that's really why he's training there, to kind of stay in your lane, stay with what you're used to, what you've built up to. That way you're less likely to get hurt. Because remember, injury risk is kind of the intersection between high forces and new movement patterns. So like if you think about, if you were to collapse forward in a squat or something, you're not used to having 315 on your back with that rounded over position. That's where injury could occur. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with a slightly rounded over position, but you've been training your squat like this the whole time. And the second you round over, that's essentially a new movement. And you haven't built up to 315. It's kind of the same idea. These new exercises, 3 weeks out with a high degree of fatigue, got to make sure you're not going to mess them up.
We'll do
already
myoreps and
said
then we'll do a
myoreps.
push-up after
At
the
the
end of
end?
the last set. Very cool.
What's Myers?
It's like a rest pause. So the first set you'll get what you get, and the rest of the sets you're trying to match that, but you're obviously going to be really fatigued. So you probably fail before whatever it is. Let's say it's 15. So let's say you get 12, you'll pause for like 5 seconds, do 2 more, pause, do another one. Just like rest pause, basically. There you go. With the body, come on, with the body.
Yeah, so myoreps, or rest pause as they call it, is really cool because of the size principle. Your body recruits muscle fibers from smallest to largest, and it doesn't essentially want to recruit all of your muscle fibers. It's not very efficient. But as you get closer and closer to muscular failure, and this is why training close to failure is so important, your body is required to recruit more and more muscle fibers. So what a myorep set does is, let's say you're shooting for 15, you fail, all out failure at 12, you've recruited a ton of muscle fibers. You take a small rest, maybe 2 seconds, try again, try your best. Let's say you get 2 more. You just got 2 more reps close to failure, recruiting all your muscle fibers. A little bit of a rest, 1 more rep, again, close to failure. It's an intensity technique to maximize the amount of reps you get really, really close to failure, which is the reps that we want.
Right here, just outside of your chest. Come all the way down until your chest touches the ground. Go all the way up until you're completely locked out. That's a push-up repetition.
Okay.
Your hips stay nice and high, all arms. When you're done and you can't do this anymore, come down to your knees and do push-ups off of your knees. Sound good? We'll let you know.
So that makes it essentially like a modified drop set. You do push-ups to failure, and then you go to knee push-ups and then go to failure again. Again, maximizing the amount of reps you have close to failure. These are awesome techniques to use, especially late in the mesocycle, because we know from progressive overload that you have to do a little bit more each week. And what that's going to do is end up pushing you closer and closer to failure. And then by the time you get to the last week, there's not really a lot of levers left to pull. So what you can do to just squeeze that last little bit of hypertrophy stimulus out of your meso before you deload is these intensity techniques.
You'll notice we want to come up quick, but control the way down. That gives us all the benefits of muscle growth and the resultant happiness and connectivity with the rest of your community. Big biceps you can run out, hug grandma, hug the dog, hug a rat in the sewer, hug yourself.
We have a little bit of literature on this, not much. I'm hopefully going to do a few studies on this in the future, but the data we do have shows that the bigger you are, the happier you end up and the more people that like you. So
6.
You're
Slow.
here for
One
the pain.
more,
Go
Conan.
slow.
One more. One more. One more.
You're here for the pain, man.
Yes.
Lean into
Slow. Slow.
you'll notice here at the end, his elbows kind of rise up at the end. And people might think that's incorrect, but the bicep, again, crosses two joints, just like the tricep. So one of the functions that it has is actually to raise the arm up. So when you're finishing a bicep curl, you can actually lift the elbow slightly, only at the end of the rep, and that maximally contracts the bicep.
Slow.
Yeah, the pump is crazy.
How's the so like similar to your session? You do how many sets? Use like 30.
Yeah, arm, triceps and biceps together. Yeah.
It's just pretty
I
comparable.
do just a lot of different angles, you know.
Is this like a pretty comparable pump to what you normally get?
No, I would say it's a little bit better.
A little better. Wow.
That's important to think about. He said he did 30 sets between biceps and triceps, and yet through these MyRep drop sets and intensity techniques, he is getting an even better pump, which we know is a potential stimulus for hypertrophy. So that's something to think about. The quality of your sets and how you progress is very important. Then also with volume.
I'm just saying.
Good workout.
Dude, all I did was yell. So, thoughts?
That's good. The pump is real.
Now go eat. So some general thoughts and something you can take away from this more practically. MyRep match or drop sets is essentially your ability to take a set close to failure, rest a few seconds, and then get a few more reps close to failure again to increase the amount of reps that you are doing at that very close to failure point where you're recruiting most of the muscle fibers. Really awesome intensity technique to use late in the mesocycle. So let's say if you're running a 4-week mesocycle, you probably don't want to do these week 1 and week 2. Week 3 or week 4, that's a good consideration. Hopefully this helped. Have a good one.